Beneath the triple canopy rainforest lurked jaguars, caiman, panthers, and the fer-de-lance viper that can kill a grown man in minutes with its deadly venom. At times, the jungle floor would be carpeted by hundreds of thousands of red ants, moving like a Roman legion as they devoured anything in their path. Vampire bats lurked in the darkness after sundown. Even the caterpillars here in the jungle could poison you. I remember when I volunteered for this deployment, one of our old salts warned me, "Don't forget, never sleep on the ground because everything in the jungle wants to kill you." I could live with the snakes and the caiman and the piranhas lurking in the eddies and pools that skirted the Guaviare River. I drew the line at the microscopic fish called the kangaroo that the locals told us liked to swim into a man's urethra and jab its spiked dorsal fin into the soft tissue there. I was a dedicated patriot and SEAL, but that was a boundary I didn't want to cross. I steered clear of the river whenever I could. I wouldn't even take a leak near it, lest those little demon fish could swim upstream. The small outpost we had been assigned to was the South American jungle version of a Foreign Legion fortress. 40 miles from the nearest settlement, it sat astride the Guaviare River, surrounded by virgin rainforest. If the things living in the river sparked alarm, the water itself wasn't much better. It moved with sludge-like speed, an ochre-colored mess of mud and jungle debris that was a nightmare for our boats to navigate. During the days, the temperature hit almost 100 degrees before noon. The humidity made us sweat like we were running marathons, even while hunkered down in the shade with water. Not that there was any ice to cool it. After our first day in country, I gave up trying to stay clean. The minute you stepped out of the shower to dry off, you'd start sweating again. By the time you dressed, your uniform was already stained from perspiration. Despite the natural and man-made dangers and heat, I loved every minute of it. Colombia was my first real deployment after I joined my first SEAL platoon. We were based out of Panama at the time, a place I also remember fondly. We had a great platoon, made up mostly of new guys, and after we finished training for the day, we'd hit the bars. We partied and trained and became brothers in that tropical paradise. One night a few months before I found myself on my Colombian vacation, we were getting particularly festive in a Panamanian-American neighborhood in the Canal Zone. A fire broke out not far from us, and a fire truck came roaring through our soiree. The party had spread to the house across the street, and by the time the fire trucks arrived, at least 400 people stood in the yards and in the middle of the street between the two houses. I was on one side of the street practicing my Spanish, and a buddy of mine, Bill Jensen, was on the other. When the fire trucks, sirens blaring, horns blasting, finally managed to part the crowd like the Red Sea, I found myself within reach of the platform of the back of the truck, so I did what any young hellraiser would do. I jumped onto the back of the fire truck. Suddenly clear of the throng of people, the fire truck gunned it, and I found myself hanging on for dear life. I looked over to my right, and there was Bill hanging on and yelling like we were on a roller coaster. Who knew that two young drunken idiot friends could have the same good bad idea? We rode it almost all the way to the fire, whooping and hollering and having the time of our lives. Then we realized we'd have to jump off while the rig was still moving if we were going to get back to the party. That landing in the ditch next to the road still elicits a wince when I think about it. We hiked back to the party, grabbed another beer, and we carried on the rest of the night. The camaraderie and friendships I built during those months in Panama lasted the rest of my life. I will always cherish those memories. I was young, barely 22 years old, and through hard work, luck, and a lot of mental toughness, I'd joined a warrior fraternity filled with men I admired, whose skill and professionalism were unsurpassed in the field of arms. So was their ability to party during our downtime. Life at full